Alright, so I'd like to talk a little bit about constructing counterarguments and refutation. So this is actually something I actually talk a little bit in section 40, but for 41, because of the holiday, I haven't got a chance to cover this. So if you turn to page 132 of our textbook, you can refer to the discussion here. So basically, when you write an argumentative essay, your job is to persuade your readers, right? So that's the goal of writing the essay. But when you try to persuade your readers, it's very likely that your readers will also question your arguments. But there's no opportunity for you actually to talk to your readers face to face and listen to their questions or challenge, and so that's the nature of writing, right? There's no way for you to actually have a conversation with them, but you have to imagine this is a conversation, which is why you need to sort of think about how someone on the other side would argue against your view, and you have to imagine. That this is why imagination is very important, because you have to anticipate some kind of challenge against your argument. And whenever you talk about the opposing viewpoint, we would call this a counterargument. Okay, so the counterargument is a possible challenge against the argument that you're presenting. So your job, part of your job for argumentative essay is actually to present a counterargument, and then you also need to support your counterargument with some evidence. So in other words, it's not enough to simply present a counterargument. You also need to actually support it. So if you go to page 133, you will be able to see that this is another requirement, which is you have to support the counterargument with some evidence, right? So after you do that, you can address that counterargument, because the counterargument is a challenge against your argument. So your job is to respond to this counterargument, and that is called refutation, and sometimes we call this rebuttal. Okay, so we have a counterargument. The counterargument is you anticipate some kind of response some kind of challenge from the readers, and then you respond to that. You address that counterargument. That will be the rebuttal, or sometimes we call this refutation. So that's how you want to write the last body paragraph in your argumentative essay, because basically in the first two body paragraph you want to focus on maybe two arguments about the topic, and then the third body paragraph you want to start with a counter argument, and then support it a little bit, and then respond to that. So basically that's what you need to do. So we need to look at an example here. This is a body paragraph that is doing exactly what I just said. So basically, if you can see here, the first sentence, some people may question the feasibility and the effectiveness of the proposed legislation, and point out that all the way down here. So this is the first sentence in the body paragraph here, which is basically presenting the counterargument, a possible challenge from the readers, because in the previous paragraphs, the author was talking about, we have to enact the laws in order to protect the children against, smoking, secondhand smoking. So this is a challenge in terms of the basically enforcement. How to enforce the law, right? When we talk about feasibility, when we talk about effectiveness, this is actually talking about enforcement. And then after that, we have another sentence here, which is to present some kind of fact, right? To say that the police cannot install smoke detectors or surveillance cameras to detect instances of smoking in the private homes. So the context here is actually private homes, right? So that's sort of some kind of elaboration or support for the counterargument here. And then the next step is to respond to that. So this is the starting of rebuttal. Okay, so we have a rebuttal here to say that even though private home is not possible, so this is some kind of concession, right? So we call this concession. Okay, to concede that this is true. But then we argue that actually smoking could be detected in the public places. So we have private homes versus public places, and this is how we are responding to the counterargument. The counterargument is saying that the law cannot be enforced in private homes. So we are saying that even though it cannot be enforced in the private homes, it can be enforced in the public places. And then once it is enforced in the public places, it can send a message to the society. And then once that message is conveyed, then adults will also perhaps avoid smoking at home. So this is how the education can have some indirect effects. The laws can have some indirect effects on people's behaviors in the private residency. So hopefully you can see that this is how we start with the counterargument right here with some kind of elaboration, and then we will respond to that with our rebuttal, and then with more sort of elaboration that also address the counterargument. Okay? So in terms of writing your argumentative essay, my suggestion is that in the third body paragraph, you want to imagine or anticipate some kind of counterargument from readers and support it a little bit, and then you can start offering a rebuttal. And that's how the third body paragraph should look like. All right? So hopefully after watching this video, you can revise your essay just a little bit, and if you have any questions, please let me know. All right?